Welcome back into the Cowboys Report. I am Tom Downey. We have a ridiculous amount of trade rumors and intel to discuss as we get into the weekend for Week 9 of the NFL season, the final weekend before we get to the NFL trade deadline. Multiple NFL Cowboys insiders have updates. In general, it sounds like defensive line and team control are the focal points in any potential Dallas Cowboys trade. Among the top players discussed, Trevon Diggs, a Maxx Crosby update that I promised you guys after Yahoo Sports is reporting. Both Titans defensive tackles, Devondre Sweat and Jeffery Simmons. The two Bengals front seven players, we'll mention those guys, two of them I should say, and Jets Dolphins candidates, especially in light of the Dolphins firing, agreeing to part ways with GM Chris Grier. Before we get into that, let's have some fun, lighthearted fun. What is the best Halloween candy? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. I am a Reese's man myself. Let me know in the comments what you think the best Halloween candy is. Hope you guys enjoy your Halloween as well. Let's get into a potential Trevon Diggs trade. Yahoo Sports floating the idea of, hey, maybe the Cowboys trade Diggs, since correctly, this relationship is deteriorating in significant fashion. Maybe even to the Green Bay Packers. Here's what one NFC talent evaluator told Yahoo Sports' Jory Epstein about Trevon Diggs. It's going to be hard to predict. He's been shaky when healthy. He's much better off coverage where he has freedom to play the ball, but his health and contract are the big issues. As part of this Yahoo Sports piece, Jory also wrote, quote, the Cowboys would likely need to eat some of Diggs' contract to make this deal palatable. And those two parts get into the crux of why there's so many issues in potentially trading Trevon Diggs, which I think the Cowboys could very well be amenable to, and if they could have had a partner last offseason, or this past offseason, I think they would have done it. He maxes out at $9.5 million in cash this year. There is about $1 million total in per-game incentives. He's not getting all of those right now. That's the max. The new team would take on what's left. It's around $5 million for half a season of play. The Cowboys have already allowed it to leak that he might need surgery if the knee does not respond properly. So that's not very good. Do teams want the hurt, expensive guy? Because that's what Trevon Diggs is right now. You can take it and make it a little bit less expensive, but do you want to trade for a hurt guy? Well, that's kind of an issue. This relationship between Diggs and Dallas, we all know and have known it's coming to an end. I think it is far more likely an off-season cut ends up being how it ends. You can trade guys on injured reserve. If Diggs were healthy, maybe it's a little bit more likely. I'm not opposed to it. I would not be mad at it because whatever you eat $4 million, you get a day 3 pick, whatever. But you can also just ship him to Siberia if you don't want him to play anymore and save the per game roster bonus stuff. So I'd be a little surprised if it happens. Cool, so be it. But I don't think there's any value here is the main point I want to emphasize. Like, if you're trying to tack him on to get somebody else better, this is not really moving the needle for you at all. So will the Cowboys trade Trevon Diggs? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Now, as promised, we're going to discuss the Maxx Crosby stuff from Jory Epstein. She again brought up the idea of, hey, maybe the Raiders trade away Maxx Crosby. And the reason being is that one NFC talent evaluator told her that, quote, I still think for the right price, Crosby could be on the move. First in a pick swap, most likely. I actually completely disagree with this. If that were the price, I think Maxx Crosby already would have been traded. His age, his impact, his Iron Man stats, playing like 95% of the snaps, a first and a 2 for a 4. The Eagles would have already done that trade. That trade would have already happened. From what I've talked to Mitchell Renz multiple times on this, I trust him completely on this as well. That's not close to the price. And honestly, I like what Jory does. I actually have some issues with how this article was framed and written and just the way it was described. Yahoo said Mark Davis, the owner, played coy and then downplayed a trade and put this quote in there from Mark Davis to Yahoo Sports. Again, it's the quote that he gave Yahoo. I would talk to our GM and head coach. I don't make those decisions. I expect Maxx to be here with the Raiders for quite a while. So that makes it sound like, oh, well, then maybe the GM will do it anyway. It implies the door is still open. But That was not the most recent quote from Mark Davis. He told NFL.com this, and you can just say what NFL.com said and hyperlinked. That's allowed. I don't know how many times I've got to say it. It's really hard to keep getting asked the same question every month or week, whatever, when the answer is going to stay the same. I don't know why anybody would think I'd change my mind or the organization would. Everybody wants to have your great players. It starts there. It doesn't start with us. With this being Mark Davis saying he isn't going to trade Maxx Crosby. Maxx Crosby, by the way, does not want out. Now, he's got the Raiders tattooed on him. He did his podcast comments like, he's like, I'm just focused on winning here. I want to be here, blah, blah, blah. Until that changes, that's like the sizable difference between the Raiders and the Cowboys with the Maxx Crosby. I get everyone brings up Micah Parsons like, oh, well, the Cowboys, so we're going to trade Micah. Yeah, Micah asked for a trade, and the Cowboys weren't paying him. Like, those are kind of two separate things. And also, the vast majority of your national media was saying no. Everyone has their price. I know that. The price is not a first and a pick swap. Because if that were the case, I would have done it 3 weeks ago. And I would drive to Vegas personally to pick up Maxx Crosby. It's actually a bad idea because, just send the plane. I would love it. I don't like being in the business of trying to present false hope for things that I just don't think are going to happen, as much as I would like to find a way to make them happen. Now, today's show is made possible by Ethos. As a father of 2 kids, it's not fun to think about what would happen if something happened to you, but you need to be prepared. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/NFL Daily. That's ethos.com/NFL Daily. Ethos is a trustworthy company that disrupts the traditional life insurance industry. And as of March 2025, Business Insider named Ethos the #1 no medical exam instant life insurance provider. They're an online platform that makes getting life insurance fast and easy to protect your family's future in minutes, not months. There is no complicated process, and it's 100% online. No medical exam is required. You just answer a few health questions and get a quote in as little as 10 minutes. 3 million families have completed their applications and trusted Ethos to help find the right coverage. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos. Get that free quote at ethos.com/NFL Daily. That's ethos.com/NFL Daily. Links in the comment section and the description of today's show. Of note, application times may vary and rates may vary. Let's go to Jeffery Simmons here. Jory Epstein and Charles Robinson both had updates in their Yahoo Insider article about Simmons, but 2 very different takes from each of them, which, this is why it's tough to, you're only as good as your sourcing is. The Titans have repeatedly leaked to media, and other media have confirmed what they've been told by other teams, that they've been told no, that they're not going to trade him. Epstein said that an NFC exec, is it the same one that undervalued Maxx Crosby? Who's to say? Said a second-round pick would probably be enough. Charles Robinson says it's actually more like a first-round pick. Of note on Jeffery Simmons, he has been ruled out again for Week 9. Feel like nobody realizes he missed Week 8. Feel like everyone's just ignoring that and pretending it's a fake injury, but it's actually been 2 weeks in a row now that he's been banged up, which also complicates the trade now because now he's banged up guy. I don't know if these NFC sources have a great feel for what the trade value is. Everyone has their price. You do have to blow away Tennessee. Jeffery Simmons is a top 5, top 3 defensive tackle in football. You don't give that guy away for a second-round pick. I would happily do it. I'll throw in Mozzie Smith as well, which is like your freebie that nobody wants. I'll do it today. Happy to do it. I think if it was actually a second-round pick, I think the Ravens would have already done that trade, for example. So name a player who you want to trade for. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Then we'll get to the other Titans DT on this list. Devondre Sweat is now an interesting name that I want to bring up here. Nick Harris mentioned him as not super source, but mentioning it as a high trade value target there. Albert Breer mentioning him, also kind of hinting at the underlying issues here. Sweat is obviously better than anything you have as a run stopper up front. Second-round pick by the Tennessee Titans. He's never been specifically mentioned as they're not trading away Jeffery Simmons. They'll listen to most others. I thought the non-most others would certainly fit on the Sweat side because he was a second-round pick. It is a new regime in Tennessee, and this would help your run defense. I think there are 2 big issues here. Beyond the cost, what do the Titans want in back? I would assume they're asking for a second since he's been pretty solid, and they spent a second-round pick on him, and you don't have a third anyway, which as a second for less team control is a little bit dicey there. But, hey, would Matt Eberflus use him right? Or he'd just be like, oh, you're big, go upfield, and not actually deploy him properly. The underlying stuff here and why he may be available, there are some attitude character concerns here. That's been mentioned a couple times. Albert Breer kind of hinting at it, saying one interesting name could be uber-talented but underachieving defensive tackle Devondre Sweat, who teams have sniffed around on a bit. But Tennessee would like to see if a new staff can reach him, which I interpret as, oh, so your current staff is not reaching him. The character stuff existed in Texas. That's why everyone was so surprised that he went as early as he did. He's talented. He's a great run stopper. Even shows some pass rush flashes. But the DUI and just he wasn't always the hardest worker for Texas either. It makes it complicated on Devondre Sweat. But this is the example of call and see what the price is, which the Cowboys have been calling, and I appreciate them for doing that. Let's go to Myles Garrett. Now, it was Charles Robinson who, intentional or not, started the Eagles offering 3 firsts for Myles Garrett. 3 firsts is kind of funny phrasing, which is also the max I think you can offer, so maybe that was the point of it. He just meant they were willing to offer everything. He has also reported the Browns are not trading him. He said, don't even bother calling the Cleveland Browns. That was his exact line in the article. So don't. I am a little bit mad at Spotrac for changing the actual dead money on Myles Garrett. That is shady behavior as far as I'm concerned. I'm not saying he did it, because I looked at it the night before, and then 12 hours later it was different. Shaved off $20 million. Stupid. But I'm not going to get my hopes up here either. Of the guys who discussed, the Tennessee guys, I think are more likely, even though not very likely. We'll have all your Cowboys trade deadline coverage right here. Videos as stuff happens, live coverage as well. So make sure you're subscribed, youtube.com/CowboysTV. Maybe the one to monitor, just because, you can make a very sound argument, more so than anybody else on this list, that the team that has him should trade him, and that's the Bengals and Trey Hendrickson. I still think it's unlikely just because of everything that, I have heard out of the Bengals organization, the local Bengals reporters are just it's not happening. It's not how they do business. They refuse to do it. Charles Robinson is also maybe, if they lose against the Bears, we can revisit and we'll monitor. They win against the Bears, I think it's definitely off the table. The Cowboys called on Hendrickson, and they were told no. Now, I suspect the Bengals probably still want a second rounder and maybe change. And from Dallas's side, do you want to add hurt guy for a second round? Because he's banged up right now. That is another complication. He is listed as doubtful to play on Sunday. He re-injured that hip. I would say it is unlikely he plays this upcoming week. Again, the local Bengals media keeps saying, no trade, no trade. Sometimes the teams lie to you. I don't think the Bengals are a very good lying team because they're run like the Cowboys are sometimes. So I'm going to put this in. I doubt it, but hey, I'll monitor. Now, on the flip side, does sound like the Bengals are willing to listen now on Logan Wilson. He requested the trade. He's been mentioned several times by myself, other local Cowboys media, because they need a linebacker. It makes sense. James Rapine, one of the Bengals top beat writers, says they are now open to it. I think it's a day 3 pick. You technically have him under team control for the next couple seasons at a little over $6 million. That's not that expensive. It's less than what you're giving Kenneth Murray right now. I don't think it's his fault in Cincinnati. He's been benched by the Bengals. I don't know, man. I keep watching Barrett Carter and Demetrius Knight not know what's going on. I literally watched Demetrius Knight do a half-moon spin, on a run play. He just didn't know what was going on. He might be cooked, but, day 3 pick to see if that's the case or not with a new scheme. I wouldn't be upset about it. I wouldn't say that it fixed everything, but I think it's in, the reasonable category. A 6th-round pick, it would be the offer. What draft pick would you trade for Logan Wilson? None is perfectly reasonable, by the way, as well. Let me know in the comment section of today's show. The Dolphins fired GM Chris Greer. We spent a lot of time on Bradley Chubb, on Jalen Phillips. There's a lot of videos on those. I wouldn't worry about that one there. Jordan Brooks, Minkah Fitzpatrick, 2 other names to mention here. Jordan Brooks been a tackling machine. Of note for Miami, he is under fairly reasonable team control next year, which might put him in the new category of, we don't have to trade him. We'll listen. We'll want to get blown away. We'll want to get the big offer. Worst case, we can always revisit after the year ends once the new coaching staff is in place, because if the Dolphins trade with Jordan Brooks, they need a middle linebacker really badly for next year as well. Minkah, I do think, might be a little bit more available. And the reason for the availability is also the reason why it might not happen in Dallas. He's owed $15.6 million next year. That's a lot for a soon-to-be 30-year-old safety. So I love him. What is the actual cost? If he's a day 3 draft pick rental, like a 5th-round pick, which seems a bit on the low side, I wouldn't be upset about that one. Nick Harris mentioned several players I want to go rapid fire on. Anthony Jennings, who he's available. I just don't think he helps you very much. But it would be like a late day 3 pick, so I'm not going to cry, but I'm not going to be over the moon about it either. He also mentioned Jermaine Johnson, and he pointed this out too. Different reports coming out of New York from national, local, and even contradicting each other, like who's actually available. ESPN said Will McDonald was not available. Albert Breer says Will McDonald's not available. Some local Jets media said, maybe they would trade Will McDonald instead. Albert Breer had several updates in his latest piece with the Jets. Says no Will McDonald trade. Jets want a 2nd-round pick for Jermaine Johnson, which if I were the Jets, that's what I would ask for. But if I were the Cowboys, I don't know if I want to move a 2nd-round pick. He is under team contract next year. Quincy Williams, the linebacker, is available. Nothing on Quinnen, by the way. That kind of falls into the blow more the 1st and more draft pick status. Day 2 pick for Breece Hall is the apparent asking price, which might be a little bit rich, for the Cowboys, but for maybe any team out there. Nick also mentioned Kayvon Thibodeau. Again, I think the asking price is probably a little bit high on that front. Definitely feels like with everything going on, there aren't as many teams that are selling and are willing to sell, which means the prices are going to be a bit expensive this year. Nick also mentioned Zaven Collins, who the Cowboys liked a lot coming out of college. He's kind of been caught as a weird tweener in the NFL. I would worry a little bit that this turns into the defensive version of Jonathan Mingo. I don't think he's a bad player. Don't get me wrong, but the down in, down out impact of what I hoped he was going to be, and he's got 12 or 19 tackles this year. He's just not. I don't know. He's just not blowing me away with the way he's performed. Or 17 tackles so far this year. A sack. I don't know. Just kind of feels a little bit like you liked him coming out, so you traded for him again. Keanu Benton's an interesting name. Kind of buried for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Don't know if they're going to punt on him yet, but I also have some questions like, does it make sense to add another defensive tackle when you're going to get Perrion Winfrey back, and the math gets a little bit dicey for me. And that's just a huge impact guy. And then Tyree Wilson, who, if you want the project, sure. I don't know if he's ever going to be good, but I do think he is a far more likely name. Plus, we all get to do the Cowboys trade for a Raiders defensive end headline if it were to actually happen.